For those of you who pay attention to the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page, you might have noticed this. Or if you're following me on Twitter, at Matt Connarton. And my Twitter game is weak. So if you don't bother to follow me on Twitter because you're thinking, why bother? That guy doesn't tweet much. I'm really working on changing that, my friends. But I did end up tweeting this weekend and posting a lot of things on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And here's why. If you haven't seen it, so if you're a longtime listener, you might know that there's a gentleman who calls into the show on a regular basis. And he started calling several months ago, and he and I got off to kind of a rough start because the first time that he called, he did this thing where, you know, he acted like he was really excited to be on the show and whatnot. And I kind of suspected he was toying with me at the time because he was a little too excited. And, you know, and I kind of felt like, this is leading to something. And then he started swearing, you know, and I had to, of course, we're on an 8-second delay here. And, you know, because we're on FM terrestrial radio and FCC regulations say we cannot have any potty mouths on the air. So I had to hit the dump button on that, you know, activate the delay and then hang up on him. But our relationship on air evolved. More on that in a moment, but let's grab this call. I have a feeling I know who this is, and I don't think it's whom I was just talking about. But hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hey, this is Eazy-G.
Thought I might be hearing from you. Got your theme music?
Your time is up, my time is now. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me, my time is now. In case you forgot or fell.
That's right, it's Eazy-G. His time is now.
Yeah, hey, did you get your present from Nicole, your Creamland shirt?
Well, I have it right here in my hands, Eazy-G. It's quite
tomorrow
fluorescent.
It's going to be Creamland Tuesday at the radio station.
Creamland
so I'm
Tuesday.
You'll wear your shirt.
So we're all getting free ice cream from Creamland?
No, right now they're going to get a free T-shirt. Daryl and Peter are going to wear it tomorrow.
Oh. Goldenrod Peter
is
going to wear a Creamland T-shirt?
Yep, tomorrow's a made-up holiday. It's going to be Creamland Tuesday at the radio station.
Creamland Tuesday? Has President Trump signed an executive order?
Tomorrow.
Oh, I bet you will. Well, it's a lovely shirt, Eazy-G. Thank you. And I will... oh, wow. What's going on the back here? Here, let me hold it up for people watching online. They can see the back. There's like a family, and okay. Now I have a concern about this shirt, Eazy-G, and you're a religious man.
Nice and bright for you, so people can see you a mile away.
You're a religious man, Eazy-G. So let me ask you a question. I want to know if there's any conflict here. On the back of the shirt, there is a family who appears to be stuffing their faces, and I believe gluttony is one of the 7 deadly sins, Eazy-G. And this family on the back of the shirt has no place at Creamland to evacuate their bowels afterward because there's no public bathroom.
Yeah,
so I do have a couple of concerns. I have a couple of concerns about the artwork.
You eat the food and you go home.
And then you go home and poop.
And you eat it there. And you have your own bathroom.
Right.
I think we've discussed this before.
I think we have discussed this before, Eazy-G. All right.
Well, anyways, enjoy the shirt.
I'm already enjoying it. Yes.
I'll be listening to the rest of your great show.
Well,
Matt in the afternoon.
Matt in the afternoon. Yes. Thank you, Eazy-G. That's the new name of the show. It's not Matt Connarton Unleashed anymore. It's Matt in the afternoon. All right. What a lovely shirt. Thank you, Eazy-G. I will wear it tomorrow because I'm a very nice man. This whole tough guy radio persona, it's really, that's all it is. Oh my goodness. Hello to Amy Ferguson, who says, hey, big bro. Amy is my, half sister. It sounds so odd to say that, I know, half sister, but we have the same mother. We do not have the same paternal, unit. Hello to Rocky Huber, who says, don't go that low. Don't wear that shirt. Oh, Rocky Huber, does not think that I should wear the Creamland shirt. All right, that's one vote against it from Rocky Huber, and hence Rocky Huber gets the air horn. So, to finish my story, hello to Wayne Noel, who joins us in the Facebook live chat. Wayne's already heard this story, but to finish my story, so this gentleman had been calling to the show. Like I said, we got off to a bad start because he had sworn on the air, and you can't do that. And so I had to dump it, and I hung up on him. And then I went into a little bit of a rant, if you will. I vented about how I'm a little bit different than your typical radio talk show host. In that, Amy says, I just call you my brother. Well, now I feel badly for referring to you as my half-sister. I should just refer to you as my sister. I feel bad now. Okay. I went off on a rant after his call about how, I am different from most hosts in that if you do a prank call into my show and you actually put some creativity and imagination into it, not only will I not get upset, I'll go with the bit. I'll try to work with you and improv something and have fun. Like, I'm not the guy that just gets mad and hangs up like, well, pretty much everybody else, every other host who's ever taken a prank call. Here's the thing. I admire the art of prank calling. And I know that sounds odd, but I'm very genuine and serious when I say that. I'm a big fan of it. But again, it has to be done right. Like, for example, on YouTube, there's these compilations of just, if Paul Cormier is listening, he knows what I'm talking about. These compilations of just hours and hours of Sal and Richard from the Howard Stern show, crank calling these different radio stations, calling these swap shop shows, if you're familiar with that. Just stuff like that. And it's brilliant. It's just genius. I love that kind of stuff. And, I keep it very, very loose on this show, as I'm sure you've noticed. Now, granted, I also have an advantage here that probably most people don't have in terms of a show, in that they are gloriously hands-off here, which I very much appreciate. They let me do my show my way. So, I'm not required to stick to some sort of format and all this. So I have the freedom to do that and change gears whenever I want to and have fun. So even in the middle of a deadly serious topic, if someone calls with a prank call and it's genuinely clever and funny, I'm into it. I'm all on board. When I used to be Norm's co-host back then it was called Norm's Psychic World. When I used to do the TV show on Channel 23 with Norm, we would get crank calls all the time, or prank calls. Is it prank or crank? I guess it doesn't matter. The terms are somewhat interchangeable. Prank sounds a little nicer, though, than crank, doesn't it? We would get calls all the time like that. And at first, Norm was very uptight about it. And he would tell me, just hang up, just hang up. And I would resist that. I mean, I should have done what he said because it was his show, right? I was just his co-host. So he's really the guy in charge. But I would try to kind of, I would just pretend I didn't hear him say it or something because I didn't want to hang up because I wanted to see where it was going. I mean, that's just my nature. It's like, okay, someone's taking the time to prank call us. Let's see where this goes. This might be funny, and if it's lame or if they start swearing, because you can't do that on the air, then we'll hang up. And, that's why we're on a delay, but let's see what happens here. And Norm eventually kind of came around to my way of thinking on that, to the point where there was a guy named David Grover. I have no idea whatever happened to him, but he would call us regularly. He was a local guy here in Manchester, and we ended up becoming friends with him. He started showing up at our events because we used to do these events, and we'd hang out with him. And he was a really nice guy. But, once we started to play along with him, we kind of won his respect, and it became like we had a rapport. So it was more than it wasn't like some dude calling us and harassing us. It was like we were having fun. So, but that's how I've always been. Actually, I'll come back to that part. So then the guy, so after I go off on my little rant, I said the two things I can't stand that are just so lame. One, don't call up and just start swearing. because that's stupid. There's no point to that. And I just end up hitting the dump button anyway. So the audience listening on FM in their cars or whatever, they don't even hear it because it gets dumped out. So there's no point to do that. I mean, it does still go out on the Facebook Live feed, which he figured out pretty quick, I think. But it doesn't go out on FM. And I said, and the other thing I hate is the food ordering joke. When somebody calls a show and starts ordering food, I said, that joke is literally older than my dead grandmother. Probably older than my dead great-great-grandmother. That goes back to like the beginning of radio itself, right? Calling a show and ordering food. That's like the lamest thing you can do. So then he calls back and he starts ordering food. But I couldn't really hold it against him because he was doing it. He wasn't doing it to be lame. He was doing it because he heard me say that I hate that, which made it kind of ironically funny. So then from there, he started calling me on a regular basis, and he started actually getting creative. Now I look back and I realize that first time he called and just did the stupid swearing, and I realize now it's because it was his first call to me, and he was kind of testing the waters, I think, to see how I'd react. So he knows who he's dealing with and, you know, where he's going to go next, because he's a pro at this, because it ain't just me that he calls, and we'll get to that in a second. So this whole thing goes on and on. You know, I'd hear from him a couple times a week, but I seemed to kind of win some respect from him because he'd call and he wouldn't really harass me, but he'd harass other people on the show like Jon Hopwood, and he kind of harassed Peter White one day, and he harassed Ryan Gorman. But me, he'd seem to be kind of nice to, because he realized he couldn't get under my skin and he couldn't rattle me because, number one, I'm willing to play. And number two, look, I take the show seriously in the sense that this is very important to me and I'm passionate about it. But my approach to this has been, I don't take myself seriously. I have no problem laughing at myself. And if someone wants to be funny and make some jokes at my expense or whatever, I'm cool with it. I'll roll with it. I don't have a big stick up my butt. And I'm not saying that certain other individuals maybe do, but I don't. So I think he figured that out, because he even made a comment about it one day. He's like, Matt, you're so cool, nothing gets to you. He may have been saying that sarcastically, but yeah, I don't, you can call and make fun of me, try to be funny and clever about it, but you can call and make fun of me. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to get mad. I'm just doing a radio show. What's to get mad and uptight about? So anyway, so there were some pretty epic moments where he really upset Jon Hopwood. Jon Hopwood now, whenever this guy calls, and I'm still referring to him as this guy, even though now I know his name, because we'll get to that point in the story in a minute. But so now whenever this guy calls, because we recognize his voice right away, Hopwood takes his headphones off. That's how much he hates him. Hello to Fred Bonig in the Facebook live chat. Let's see. Amy says, have you seen or heard of ownage pranks on YouTube? I have not, but I will look that up. So this has been going on for a while. Now, over the course of these calls, he said something really interesting one day, because keep in mind, through all of this, we don't know anything about this guy. Sometimes he calls, he says he's from Idaho. Other times he calls, he says he's from Canada. We don't really know what's real. We don't know if he's doing something with these calls, right? Or if it's just something he's doing for fun, if he calls other shows, or if he just for some reason targeted my show, or what. Like, we know none of this. And obviously I'm very curious about it, but I'm also not going to come right out and ask him on the air, because I don't think he's going to tell me, because he's not going to, because that would just be awkward, and I don't know, it would just kind of ruin the whole thing, right? So I never bothered to ask him, because he's not going to tell me anyway, or at least I don't think he would have if I had asked him. So, but he dropped a very interesting clue one day, and it was during a time when he was arguing with Hopwood, and Hopwood's getting all mad, and Hopwood said something to him about, why do you do this? Why are you wasting your time calling this show and bothering us or whatever? And the caller said something about, well, you have no idea what I'm really up to. I'm doing something much bigger over here. I got my own thing I'm doing. And when he said that, I thought, I think this guy's doing his own kind of show, and he's using prank calls, and I bet he calls other shows, and he's putting them into this show. But I didn't say anything, because, again, I wasn't going to come right out and ask him, because I didn't think he was going to tell me anyway. So, but I thought that's a big clue. But then again, I also didn't know, was that a serious comment when he said that? Or was that just a throwaway line, and he's really just a guy who likes prank calling our show? You know, I didn't know. So I didn't really say anything. But there was something else he said, too, at another time that we'll come back to later. So let me get to what happened this weekend, what happened on Saturday. So all this time, I don't know who this guy is. I'm curious, but I'm not terribly obsessed or preoccupied with it. It's like, well, maybe someday we'll find out. But in the meantime, I look forward to his calls. And at this point, I genuinely do. I mean, there's been some, I think it's funny when he harasses Hopwood. No offense, John, if you're listening, I love you and I consider you a great friend, but it is funny to me when you get upset with his calls, which is the only reason he does it, because you get all worked up and you let him get to you. That's what makes it humorous. But he called one day as this character Yugless, which was by far my favorite. The Yugless character is awesome. He's only called me with it once, but he's called other shows with it. So here's what happened Saturday. Saturday, I'm online and in my YouTube feed. So, I subscribe to these different political shows on YouTube, and one of them is The Majority Report with Sam Seder. So, so if you subscribe to a show on YouTube, for those of you who do this, you get a little notification when there's a new clip or whatever. So I see something show up in my YouTube feed, my suggested videos, from The Majority Report with Sam Seder, and the title of the video was something about Sebastian Gorka pranked by caller. So I see the title, and I think, oh, well, Sebastian Gorka is someone whom I find very detestable and vile and gross, and I've heard Sebastian. Of course, he worked for the Trump administration for a while, and I've heard his radio show, and I've seen his appearances on C-SPAN or whatever, and I think he's a very despicable person. So I see that someone had prank called his radio show, and I was like, oh. This sounds like something I would enjoy listening to. So I click the clip, and of course it starts with Sam Seder and his co-host Michael Brooks, and they're just kind of talking about what we're about to see and kind of setting it up. And then they go to the clip of Sebastian Gorka taking this call. And as soon as I hear the voice, Sebastian Gorka, he answers and, he's like, hello, caller. Welcome to Sebastian Gorka. I know I do a terrible impression of him. God, I just hate him so much. Anyway, so he takes the call and the caller starts speaking, and immediately I recognized his voice and I was like, oh my God. That's the same guy. That's the guy that calls me all the time. I couldn't believe it. I recognized his voice and his cadence immediately. And I really was genuine. Like, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. He does call other shows, and he pranked Sebastian Gorka. It was exciting to me on multiple levels, partly because I hate Sebastian Gorka, so it was nice to hear someone harass him, and partly because I couldn't believe that it was the same guy. And then, and it was great, and the call was very funny, and he insults Sebastian Gorka, and then after the clip, Sam Seder and Michael Brooks are talking about who the guy is. So I was able to finally figure it out. So his name is Chris James. He's a comedian from Vancouver, so he actually is from Canada. So he's telling the truth when he says he's from Canada. Sometimes he says he's from Idaho. And he has a show on YouTube called Not Even a Show. And I went right down that rabbit hole. I went through and I found, because guess what? There's a whole bunch of episodes that feature clips of him calling this show. And it's awesome. So I went through and I found, because, you know, in the description for each episode, he lists what shows he called that week, and he timestamps it so you can, you know, and I shared every single one of them that I could find. I shared out on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. I was like a little kid Saturday night. I was like, this is amazing. I was excited because I finally know who the guy is. I love his show. I became an instant fan. And I watched some of his stand-up comedy too, and he's very funny. And I was just like, you know, and I'm watching him harass these other hosts too. So there you go. So his name's Chris James. Now, one thing that's weird is, so everybody else who he harasses, first of all, they all handle it wrong. Like I'm the only one he calls who actually is interested in going with the bit and having some fun with it. Everybody else, like I said, they all get rattled and nervous and freaked out. And this one guy who was waving a gun around, what's his name? Jim Lockwood, I think. Some D-bag. So I wasn't really familiar with Jim Lockwood till I watched Chris's show, and I was like, wow, this guy's awful. His favorite target seems to be this right-wing guy named J.J. McCartney, who, and there's a joke about shirts. And you'll have to check it out. It's called Not Even a Show. It's on YouTube. So, but anyway, so yeah, I went through, I found all the ones with Matt Connarton Unleashed. And then I started watching some of the other ones. But okay, so here's the weird thing, though. So everybody else he hassles is, well, hassles isn't quite the right word, but pranks is, well, he does hassle them. I don't see it. To me, it's not a hassle. But everyone else, they're all like these right-wing talk show guys. So I'm like, there's nothing right-wing about me. I mean, so I'm kind of the odd man out here. It's like, but I found the episode of his very first call to this show, you know, and he introduces each clip. And when he introduced the clip of his original call to this show, he actually refers to me as a right-wing shock jock. Right-wing shock jock, Matt Connarton. So from that, I was able to figure out, okay, so I'm not sure how he found the show, but for whatever reason, he had the impression when he first started calling me that I was one of these right-wing talk show hosts. And, you know, now he knows I'm not, clearly, but for whatever reason, now I have theories about why he might have thought that initially. It's not the first time that that's happened. Because I'm certainly no conservative. I've never been a conservative, but I'm not really, I don't consider myself a liberal either. I mean, I'm kind of centrist and libertarian in some ways, and I do agree. But what might have happened is, because this has happened before, I do agree with conservatives on, you know, a few things at least. You know, my views on guns and the Second Amendment, I tend to be kind of conservative on that. And, or if he happened to hear one of my rants about how I think political correctness goes way too far and I have a loathing for, you know, far left social justice warriors who I think are just way out of control, which is not a very liberal sounding thing to say. That's something that conservatives often complain about. So depending on what he might have heard in terms of content when he initially stumbled upon my show, depending on what I was talking about in that particular moment, I can see how someone, because like I said, it's happened before. Other people have mistaken me for a conservative, even though most people say, oh, Matt, you're such a liberal. Why don't you just admit you're a liberal? Which, again, I agree with liberals on all kinds of stuff, but I'm an independent. I don't feel like I fit into a box, you know? So that might have been how that happened. He only referred to me as a right-wing shock jock that one time. And in every clip after that, he does not refer to me that way. So anyway, so I was very excited, and I ended up, so then I was like, I got to figure out a way to communicate to him that I figured out, who he is, because it's just so funny that I figured it out so, like, completely by accident. If I hadn't stumbled upon that clip from the Majority Report of him calling into Sebastian Gorka's show, I still would have no idea. It's just so funny how life works sometimes, just pure happenstance. But, and there's no way to directly message people through YouTube. And I couldn't find him on Facebook, but I was able to find him on Twitter. So I tweeted at him something about, hey, I figured out who you are. You've been unmasked. Now I know, and I love your show, and now I'm officially a fan. But I found you through at Sam Seder's show, the Sebastian Gorka clip, and he tweeted in response to that, LOL, that rocks. So I was able to communicate to him that I figured it out. The only thing I'm worried about now is I hope that because of all this, now that I know, I hope he doesn't stop calling because of that, because that would kind of bum me out. Because like I said, I actually enjoy his calls. Maybe he'll wait till the next time Hopwood's on. But, yeah, there's, but the other, now this is the other odd thing though, because I'd referred to this earlier and I said I wanted to circle back to it. Just quickly, let's see, nope, one of the guys from, Abstract Transmissions is asking me if they can bring alcohol. No. It's really hard to answer this while I'm on the air, but nope. FCC does not allow. I don't know if that's literally true, but there's certainly no alcohol allowed here. It's not, I don't run the place, but let's see. Hello to Jeff Cassell in the Facebook live chat, and Fred Bonig from the Daily Ripple. Oh, and I see Jenny in there. Hello, Jenny. The other just kind of weird thing, getting back to the Sam Seder part of this. So there was another time that he called in, that Chris called in, and Peter White was here, of course, Peter White from the morning show. And Peter was sitting on the couch. And so Chris was kind of giving him a little bit of a hard time and called him like a Sam Seder wannabe, because he was observing that Peter kind of looks like Sam Seder. And when it's funny, when he said that, I was like, actually, you're right. He does kind of look like him. And then Peter wasn't familiar with Sam Seder, but he was able to find a picture of him on his phone. And this is odd, but when Chris said that, when he made that observation, I kind of filed that away in the back of my mind, the Sam Seder comment. Because you ever just hear something that isn't necessarily apropos to anything, but you just kind of know it's going to somehow be relevant later? It's just sort of an intuition that you have. Somehow I knew that Sam Seder was going to figure into things later. I know it's very odd. Yeah, it's like probably the closest thing I've ever had to a psychic moment. I know this sounds very strange, but I swear it's true. When he made the Sam Seder comment to Peter, something in my mind said, swear to God, something in my mind said, this will be relevant later. I don't know why, I don't know how, but remember this comment specifically because it's going to be relevant later. And then, Saturday, it ends up being through Sam Seder that I figure all this out. Just that part of it's just really weird.